Also in the bulletin tonight, residents of here and surrounding communities construct a bridge over the dam spillway after years of government neglect and appeals.
And in international news, Nigeria says it will welcome U.S. help in fighting Islamist insurgents as long as its territorial integrity is respected. Well, the details of these and many more stories, including sports and entertainment, coming up over the next 1 hour. Stay with us for the details.
Let's start from here. Residents of Bompata in the Asante south of the Ashanti region on Sunday demonstrated against illegal mining in their community. They have vowed to resist any attempt by authority to grant mining licenses to any individual or groups. Here is a report by William Evans Inkum and Kwame Yabwa.
Scores of residents took to the streets of Bompata to protest the negative impact of illegal mining in their community. They allege that mining licenses continue to be granted to individuals despite the serious and irreparable environmental damage caused.
And I'm saying your bed to make a summer. And I wash my kumemum. It's a motion swa a pramia. Maybe a medical testing. On my soul, a friend bedu. Monsieur the Niaye. Obeka said,
I speak for women because I am a woman. I am saddened by the current state of our water bodies. Testing was done on River Beidou, which has left the river in a very bad state, as you can see. Here in Asante Achem, we have a clean river called River Bompata. The owner of BB Mining claims she has helped the community and she should be allowed to mine here in Bompata. We don't want our women to give birth to deformed babies as a result of the bad state of the river. We call on all leaders to come to our aid. We, the people of Bompata, will be against Galamsey any day.
The alleged miner has yet to respond to the accusations. Several communities across the Ashanti region have suffered from the activities of illegal miners. The government has intensified campaigns to protect the environment from further destruction by illegal mining. Sunday's protest in Bompata was intended to send a clear message to the local authorities. Illegal mining is unacceptable to residents. Joseph Barr speaks for the aggrieved residents.
We do not want mining here in Bompata because it has not been of help to other areas in Ghana. We don't want our lands, crops and water bodies destroyed. We have gathered here to let our leaders know that we are against mining. We have also informed the police command to ensure the law works here in Bompata.
Meanwhile, tension erupted in Fidiam in the Ahafu region after a joint military team from the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat NIMOS arrested 2 men allegedly involved in illegal mining. The suspects, identified as Zakaria and Kwame Alex, were picked up at Broni Krom near Fidiam, and 2 vehicles, a Range Rover and an unregistered RAV4, were seized. The soldiers also confiscated several mobile phones, a pistol with 2 magazines and 21 rounds of ammunition from the scene, some mining equipment and wooden structures belonging to the miners were reportedly set ablaze during the operation. However, tension escalated when an irate mob of about 600 residents besieged the Fidiam police station, demanding the release of the suspects' vehicles and the soldiers' arrests. Let's go to the phone lines now and get more of this from Pakwesi Shandov, who is the Public Relations Officer for NIMOS. Good evening to you, Pakwesi. Tell us what triggered the confrontation between NIMOS team and the residents of Fidiam during this anti-illegal mining operation.
Yeah, Aisha, good evening, and I'm happy that we have an opportunity to join this particular conversation. What happened is an incident that really was extremely and profoundly disappointing, because the soldiers, the NIMOS team, were basically there to ensure a crackdown. And so it was a huge surprise that the locals got agitated, demanding for the release of the persons who have been arrested. And then in the process, they then began to accost and attack the NIMOS team. In fact, when the incident happened yesterday, having spoken to the Director of Operations of NIMOS, he indicated to me that he survived clearly by the mercy of God. Because if we look at the intensity of the anger and how that they were very much charged, he and the rest of the team would have lost their lives. That is the plainest way to put it. And so we are wondering, the question that for me as an individual has been on my mind is, why would the youth, the young people in that particular enclave, protest against the military NIMOS coming around to, as it were, end illegal mining in that particular area? But what we have also discovered, and what is currently being investigated, is that it appears there are certain individuals who actually are the masterminds behind it. Otherwise, I mean, Aisha, let's try to rationalize this. If a NIMOS task force has come to an area, in fact, that was not even their primary destination. They were on their way back to Accra, and then they saw the mining, happening along the road. Then they decided to stop, intercept the process, and then end it. Why should this be a cause of agitation? What we are learning, although inconclusive, is that apparently there are certain kingpins who are sponsoring this, and so investigations have commenced accordingly, and in due time we'll be able to identify the persons who actually instigated and facilitated this very risky and fatal development.
Pakwesi, when we spoke with you last night, you mentioned that you were acting on some intelligence that you gathered, but did you not anticipate this kind of response?
Well, so this particular operation, like I did indicate, it was accidental. Accidental in the sense that it was not part of the original operational schedule of NIMOS. So basically, let me explain what it was. NIMOS had finished, they were coming to Accra from Goso. Then along the road, that is when they observed the illegal mining happening. But of course, they couldn't have said that well, because that was not in their initial plan. They were going to overlook or ignore it. And so it isn't something that was anticipated at all. They were just returning to Accra. They saw the event happening along the road. Therefore, they decided to arrest the illegal miners. And that is how come we are here with the NIMOS Director of Operations almost losing his life. You should have heard him, or the rest of the team, narrate the incident. It was bloody, and it could have been a different story altogether. But like I indicated, the ministry takes the issue very seriously. The sector minister, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, has been adequately briefed, and investigations will commence accordingly.
So how do you hope to prevent some of these things in the future, to ensure that, steps are being taken to ensure that the seized exhibits and suspects are properly handled to avert some of these things?
Aisha, clearly, from what happened yesterday, the briefing that I received from the Director of Operations of NIMOS, it is abundantly clear that if we are going to deal with illegal mining and do away with some of these developments, the locals must be sensitized, number one, and especially not just the locals by way of the residents, but the local authorities must also up their game. Coincidentally, just this Friday, when the minister handed over some vehicles to NIMOS, he did indicate that as of now, if you were a chief or you are part of the local authority, you are caught as somebody, or you're identified as somebody who is complicit and knee-deep, we are going to deal with you. What happened yesterday, clearly, and I'm not saying it conclusively or, as it were, judging anybody before hearing, but clearly it appeared that the local authorities there were not on top of their game. Otherwise, how come nobody was able to, as it were, hold the fort and even prevent the...
We seem to have lost Pakwesi there, but he has made all of the points clear there. Pakwesi Shandov is the Public Relations Officer of the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS.
Let's still stay on the camp of the military, because tonight the Military High Command has cautioned personnel not to take the law into their own hands, whether on duty or off duty. Speaking at this year's Land Combat Fire and Power demonstration, the Deputy Defense Minister said the law will deal decisively with any soldier or officer who brings the name of the service into disrepute. Joseph Armstrong Goldalogbe was at the Bondasi camp and filed this report.
Zero Papa, this is Cobra 1, over.
It is all part of this year's Land Combat, Fire and Power Demonstration, a key exercise for students of the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Course 47.
This is the technical details of both
The demonstration tested the operational capabilities of the armed forces, assessing the readiness of a battle group and joint task force to defend Ghana's territorial integrity. A wide array of military assets, armored vehicles, artillery and advanced weapon systems were deployed in a simulated battlefield scenario. Troops on the front lines gathered intelligence, responded swiftly to emerging threats, and neutralized simulated enemy forces. Despite the intensity of the exercise, only a few minor injuries were recorded. The Ghana Air Force and Navy provided essential air and coastal support throughout the operation. At the crossing parade, the Chief of Defense Staff reaffirmed the Ghana Armed Forces' unwavering commitment to safeguarding the nation's peace and security. Deputy Defense Minister Ernest Broja Jimfi, who reviewed the parade, commended the troops and announced government's plan to further equip the military.
The government of Ghana, under the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, President of the Republic and Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, fully appreciates that true operational excellence depends not only on troop readiness, but equally on the efficiency, reliability, and the modernization of military machinery and equipment. It is the commitment of government, therefore, that the Ghana Armed Forces shall undergo a retooling and modernization drive. Government has so far embarked on a comprehensive restructuring of the Ghana Armed Forces, focusing on the establishment of new units, and we are going to see some new units built from the scratch in order to augment the capabilities of the Ghana Armed Forces.
He also cautioned personnel not to take the law into their own hands, whether on duty or off duty, warning that any misconduct would be met with decisive action.
I must issue a candid caution. Every soldier and officer is expected to uphold the highest standards of conduct, respect the rule of law, and safeguard the rights of all citizens, whether on duty or off duty. Any actions that bring the image of our revered Ghana Armed Forces into disrepute will be dealt with decisively in accordance with the regulations of the Ghana Armed Forces and the laws of the Republic.
The Chief of the Army Staff, Major General Batanu, assured the public of the military's continued commitment to protecting Ghana's territorial integrity. Joseph Armstrong, Gold Alogbe, TV3, Bondasi.
With Ghana losing billions of cedis each year in the public sector through financial irregularities, calls have intensified for stricter punishment to deal with public sector corruption. Experts have proposed the establishment of fast-track trials and a reverse burden approach for corruption cases. There's more in this report.
The 2024 Auditor General report indicated a figure 18.4 billion cedis in financial irregularities in public boards and statutory institutions. The Auditor General's report, which focused on areas like payroll, procurement and cash management, are submitted to Parliament for action. However, enforcement and recovery of funds have become a challenge over the past 3 decades since return to constitutional rule in 1993. President Mahama, while bemoaning these financial irregularities that are recorded every year, announced plans by his government to establish special courts to expedite the handling of cases arising from audit infractions identified in the Auditor General's report.
To find a final solution to this Auditor General's report, that persons who are found guilty of infractions or do not follow due procedure or lead to loss of public resources, we must have a fast-track process to Nsawam. Fast-track, before you see you are in Nsawam, 6 months. You know, until we do that, until there's a deterrent, we're going to come every year and they say total misappropriation and infractions of found out by the Auditor General is about 15 billion cedis. I mean, if we save 15 billion cedis, can you imagine what it could do?
Director of Communications for the United Party, Solomon Owusu, supported calls for stricter punishment for looters of state coffers.
I am just coming from the Kolebu emergency unit. Go and see what is happening there. Total chaos. People are not getting beds to sleep on. I'm just coming from 5 regional tour. And go and see how deplorable are Rosa. And there is a correlation between underdevelopment and how much is being stolen from us. So there is no doubt that people are stealing from us. But because we encourage them year in and year out, what we do is that we put cameras on them. They go to the Public Accounts Committee, speak all the big grammar, and then everyone forgets about it. So I support the president in total that there has to be a way of dealing with these people.
Former Attorney General Daniel Yao Dumelevo is proposing a reverse burden approach in the trial of cases of financial crimes and corruption-related cases in the country. Accused persons will then have to prove beyond reasonable doubt to the court how they acquired their wealth which does not match their known sources of income. He supported calls by the president for fast-track trial for persons whose action result in loss of the state.
I have said time and again that because there is not sufficient deterrence or consequences for wrongdoing, people keep doing. So let me say that the action being taken by the president is very commendable. It's good that we have dedicated or specialized courts that will handle these infractions that the Auditor General brings out each year or from time to time.
For private legal practitioner Isaac Edri calls for the introduction of a reverse burden in trial of financial crimes and corruption-related cases in Ghana will not be good.
When we say that, okay, the state is the one, all state apparatus bringing to bear on this one individual group of people for having, committed a crime against the state has the power, it has the resources, it has the abilities to be able to prove that crime that they are claiming that this person has committed. And that is why, as a matter of legal position, just of balancing the weight between the parties involved, let's say that you say that this person has done this, you have all the resources of the country to follow and prove that this person has indeed done that. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of difficulty, but if you lift that entirely off the state, we could see the chaos that will immediately happen.
A lecturer at the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, Dr. Joshua Zato, says the level of corruption in the public sector can be attributed to poor management.
I say poor management because it happens to all the regimes. Today, there are CEOs who have been in office for 8 months, without a board of directors. Now, the board is supposed to guide you, direct you, and approve almost all it takes to do. So these men and women are working before the board. So by the time the board comes in, the CEO and his people know everything more than you. Now they are waiting for you to approve things, and before you realize you're just coming to just approve things. It doesn't help with the corporate governance of SOEs when it's that, because the right thing should have been that a board comes in, then the CEO comes, then the board approves you. We've done that for reasons because it's political and you cannot let somebody sit for that long. So that is one area we have to look at to make sure that we do the appointment right.
With Ghana set to lose about $3 billion each year to corruption, drastic measures must be instituted to block the loopholes. Also, steps must be taken to punish persons whose actions deprive the country of needed funds which would have gone into the provision of health and education facilities, potable water, among others.
Away from corruption to the farms, rice farmers in Sumenya in the eastern region say the influx of foreign rice is undercutting their sales and making their business less competitive. They make this known when members of Parliament on the Environment, Science and Technology Committee, together with the Climate Change Caucus, visited some farms to learn firsthand about the impact of climate change on their production. Christian Yali reports.
Despite rising domestic rice production, Ghana spends more than $500 million annually on rice imports. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's Grain and Feed Annual 2025 report projects that Ghana's rice import will reach 1 million metric tons in the 2025-2026 season, covering more than half of national demand. Currently, thousands of metric tons of paddy and milled rice remain unsold in storehouses across rice-growing regions from the 2024 season. Farmers are also unable to harvest this season's crop due to a lack of funds to rent harvesters, leaving several acres of rice still standing in the fields. This is the trouble of rice farmers in Adelakope in Sumenya.
The situation here is the same. It is our customers that delayed, and our whole thing also gone delayed. So as I harvested now, no buyer, and I can't get enough money. It means I'm not able to do it this season.
That is not all. They are caught between feeding the nation and fighting the effects of climate change. These locals have adopted natural irrigation systems and farming techniques to maintain their farms, but they need help.
For instance, your rice is ready to be harvested. Calling harvester to come and harvest, they will be delaying, and maybe it will rain and you can't harvest. That is also causing loss for farmers. So if they can put all those things in consideration, getting machines for the farmers' inputs so that it will boost the yield, the harvest, so that we will have more, so that we will be capable to supply our country, so that we will not import new rice.
On Sunday, November 2nd, members of Parliament from the Environment, Science and Technology Committee, as well as the Climate Change Caucus, stepped into the rice paddies. Their mission is a targeted approach to reducing methane emissions and saving the environment.
We are going to advocate, help rice farmers to do their production in an environmentally friendly manner, where methane mitigation measures and reduction measures will be incorporated. So this visit is an eye-opener. It has enhanced our capacity to ensure that we produce the rice and reduce importation.
There are projects which is spearheaded by EPA and MOFA to help farmers to produce rice that will yield more, that will produce less methane, and on top of it, get carbon credits out of it. Yeah, so these projects are being piloted in. I think, if my memory serves me right, they are working with, at the moment, they are working with about 8,000 farmers who are already on the program.
According to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, rice farming accounts for about 10% of agricultural methane emissions globally.
And so from research findings and per what experts tell us, agriculture contributes roughly some 41% to methane output. And methane, as we know it, is so powerful, even more than carbon dioxide. So it is able to trap heat for over a 20-year period. And what legislators are seeking to do is to ensure that methane emissions are cut to the barest minimum. And it is one of the reasons they are engaging rice farmers to ensure that their work is in line with accepted standards. Christian Yali, TV3 News, Adelakope, Sumenya, Eastern Region.
Let's now turn our attention to Parliament. Now, members of the House work year-round with minimal breaks, raising questions about their workload, productivity and overall well-being. owing to the workload and their well-being. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, says the legislators would need leave days in order to rest. But that has ignited debates, with some questioning how that can be done when the MPs already take recess and are expected to rest during those periods. Evelyn Tingma has more.
Ghana's labor law says all workers are entitled to a minimum of 15 working days of paid annual leave. But members of parliament seem to be missing out, despite working for long hours in both parliamentary sessions and at committee meetings, as well as in the constituency, where they usually have engagements with their constituents. As a result, the well-being and productivity of members are brought to the fore. This could have prompted the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, to call for leave days for MPs.
The Labour Act expects that you should also have some leave. It's done all over the world. Those of us who have sacrificed all these years, we know how our families have been destroyed because you never have time for your family.
But his comments attracted debate. Some say the parliamentary calendar and schedule is flexible enough, and leave days could mean a luxury for the MPs.
They have been given a lot of recesses and breaks, so I think that will be okay for them.
I think because of the breaks and the recess they have been going through, they don't need to be given an additional break or holidays in addition to what they have been enjoying already, because it's already much time for them to have time for their family and do their personal stuff.
Others say MPs are expected to be available to their constituents, and extended leave may disrupt their work. Governance expert Professor David Abdullahi said MPs already have significant break periods.
We can empathize with them, but they already have a recess, and that's about 3 months. So it is going to be very difficult to sell this idea to Ghanaians that they want annual leave. And besides, they knew what they stood elections for.
He said being a parliamentarian is a higher calling, unlike regular workers.
They work every Tuesday to Friday, right? Yes. So how many days are that? Do you work Tuesday to Friday? That's about 4 days, right? So, there are ways and means they can have enough time to rest. One of the responsibilities are that you are going to be making laws, but at the same time, when you're on recess, you have to deal with the constituency that voted you to Parliament. I mean, it is not something that is hidden. It is out there before you actually decided to run for Parliament.
But Labour expert Austin Game has a different view. He said the MPs work 24/7 in the chamber and at the constituency level, and the leave days are needed.
It's not a very bad idea, except that in our side of the world, when people go on break, like the long vac, the members of Parliament go on, it is presumed by all of us that that is enough break period for them to have a good rest. It's not entirely like that. So they have to find a way of educating their members to know that I'm on leave for X period. I can spend some time with them, and then the rest of the time I can also rest, because you need rest. The body needs rest.
He said even though its feasibility would be difficult, he suggested that MPs take at least 2 weeks as leave during their long recess.
Members of Parliament should know the kind of work they have agreed to do. Is a priceless job, but I think it is fair that they have 2 weeks rest within the long vac in the year, so that they can be able to re-energize themselves, their families to take care of them, and have rendezvous with their wives and children.
Parliament typically sits for about 28 weeks and goes on recess for 24 weeks within a session. A session usually has 3 meetings. The first meeting is from January to March, the second from May to July, and the last meeting from October to December. The House convenes from Tuesday to Friday with an average of 132 sittings per session. Well, as the debate ranges on, one thing is clear. The MPs will continue to serve the nation with or without annual leave. But perhaps it is time for policymakers to consider the human factor and strike a balance between work and rest. Evelyn Tinkma,
TV3 News, Parliament House.
Well, calls for official leave dates for the MPs there. Away from that, in the spirit of community, residents of Via and its surrounding communities have constructed a bridge over the dam spillway. Upper East Regional correspondent Tanko Mohammed Rabi was at the official opening of the bridge to the general public and brings this report.
The Via Dam, constructed between 1965 and 1980, serves as the main source of drinking water for residents of Bolgatanga and many surrounding communities and towns. Residents living across the spillway are often cut off from the rest of the region, especially during the rainy season. After years of neglect and repeated appeals, community members took matters into their own hands and constructed the bridge following government inaction. The assemblyman for the Via electoral area, Wilbert Apusub, narrated the hardships residents faced before the bridge was completed.
The dam was constructed in 1965. Since 1965 up to this year, every year we struggle. We have always been disconnected from the regional capital and that of the district capitals. So each time the water spills, we will have to wait about 6 months for the water to dry, and we can cross again to Guri, to Bolga, to Bongo, and other districts.
The chief of Via, Naba Thomas Azubri II, expressed gratitude to the community for their spirit of unity in completing the project.
I'm happy because this time around, we don't suffer to cross the other side. The bridge is already there. So our movement this time is very, very, very easy. This time around, you cannot get people to do communal level like what we have done. But we were able to prepare ourselves very well, and we came out in groups and we were doing the work willingly.
Residents will no longer spend hours traveling long distances to reach their communities.
Also, some chiefs and residents of Damfa, Tinibi, Oyarifa and surrounding communities have reminded the Member of Parliament for the Medina constituency about the poor state of their roads. According to them, the MP, who played a leading role in several demonstrations while in opposition, must now ensure that the roads are fixed since his party is currently in government.
In 2001, the Damfa Ayimensan Road gained national attention following a series of protests and demonstrations by residents and traditional leaders in the area, with their MP, Francis Xavier Sosu, actively participating. In one of those instances, police attempted to arrest the MP, accusing him of misconduct during the protests. At a town hall meeting organized by the Lankwantana Medina Municipal Assembly, the chiefs and residents again demanded answers on when the roads will finally be constructed.
More roads within our communities. He was part of us, he was chased, he was arrested. We stood by him. Now, the mother is in the kitchen.
In response, the Medina MP, Francis Xavier Sosu, assured residents that a contractor will soon move to site to begin work on the Damfa and adjoining roads.
I can assure the people of Medina, the people of Ayimensa, Damfa, Ado, Tema, Otinibi, all the way to the street that covers Amahia, that once the contractor begins work, they will see speed, and very soon we will have relief as far as road infrastructure is concerned in Medina.
He also mentioned other road projects within the Lankwantana Medina municipality that have been earmarked for construction under the government infrastructure plan.
I can't tell for a fact when the contractor is going to go on the road, because what is happening now is that we are now repackaging those roads, to the determined contractors. And the other good thing is that these are identified contractors who have, the financial muscle to be able to work on the road. I can assure that the best assurance I can give is that before the year comes to an end, I'm very sure that contractors are going to be on that road.
Is it part of the big push?
It wasn't captured under big push, but these are also priority routes that the ministry has identified and are going to work on. And I actually had a meeting on this one just this week.
Okay. Residents, however, say they will continue monitoring progress until the long-standing road challenges are fully addressed. Joseph Armstrong, Good Alugu TV3, Accra.
And now the Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, has reaffirmed President Mahama's commitment to establishing the Volta economic zone to create jobs and transform the region's economy. Speaking on behalf of the President at the Grand Durbar of the 2025 Hogbachochoza, Mr. Deborah said the initiative will mark the turning point in the development of the Volta region and the livelihoods of its residents.
64 years ago, when the president of the time, Osajufu Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, thought of the idea of building a dam across the Volta Lake. Many people doubted it. Some even said it was waste of resources. But we now have Akosombo Dam that supplies electricity not only to Ghana, but to some of the neighboring countries. In the same way, President John Dramani Mahama is also conceived of a vision to establish what we call the Volta economic zone. He believes that all the water that runs from the north into the sea goes wasted. Therefore, if we are able to invest and to develop either banks of the river into agricultural production zones, whereby we will add agro-processing industries, factories, and create a zone where we'll be able to export and also to enable river transport between Ghana and the Sahelian countries. He believes that will go a long way to create a lot of jobs for the people in the Volta region and the people in Ghana as a whole. My request today is to appeal to all the chiefs and people of Volta region that anytime you go to the traditional houses, anytime you go down on your knees, please remember your son John Dramani Mahama in prayers, and let's pray so that such an important vision shall come.
In some more news this evening, the Director General of the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, Major Retired Dr. Joseph Bikani, has expressed concern over the number of disasters recorded in the country. According to him, between 2010 and 2022, over 2.2 million Ghanaians were affected by flooding, while drought in the northern regions reduced agricultural productivity by up to 30%, contributing to food insecurity and displacement.
The impact of climate change in Ghana can be seen in floods and droughts and coastal erosion. This has often resulted in widespread displacement, food insecurity, health issues, and damage to critical infrastructure. About 45,000 Ghanaians are affected by flooding every year. Coastal erosion threatens 37% of Ghana's shoreline, with infrastructure losses estimated at $200 million annually. Coastal communities are reeling from the impacts of climate change as rising sea levels and tidal waves cause havoc to homes and the livelihoods of thousands of people. With rapid urbanization expected to reach 56% of Ghana's population by 2030, exposure is further concentrated, particularly in informal settlements. While Ghana has developed strong policy foundations, including the National Disaster Management Plan, National Adaptation Plan, and nationally determined contributions, implementation remains fragmented. Disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptations processes often operate in silos, reducing efficiency and hindering collective impacts. Director General of the National Disaster Management Organization, Major General Retired Dr. Joseph Bikani Kuyon, said the revitalization of the National Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction and Climate Change Risk Management offers timely opportunities to foster coherence, coordination, and collaboration.
The country loses so much in terms of funding, over $200 million every year to disaster destruction. This is close to about 3% of Ghana's GDP. And about 2 million of its population suffer from the impact of disaster every year. Our failure in this regard is not because we have failed to act. It is because our actions are incoherent.
The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, 6th Assessment Report, reveals that climate change acts as a risk multiplier, intensifying existing vulnerabilities and amplifying the human and economic cost of disasters. As climate change continues to pose essential threats to Ghana, there is a need to take decisive action to mitigate its impact on lives and livelihoods across the country. Citizens must also be educated about the impact of human activities to reduce its effects. Joseph Armstrong, Good TV3, Accra.
Once a symbol of colonial history and cultural memory, Fredericksburg Fort, known locally as Sesame Castle, now stands neglected. The fort, restored in 2007, has since been left to deteriorate. Our reporter Asada Boche visited the site and filed this report.
In the mid-19th century by Danish colonialists, Fredericksburg Fort once served as a plantation house and trading post. Today, it remains a powerful reminder of Ghana's complex past, but its present condition tells a different story, one of neglect and fading glory. Jasehine of Sesame recalled the fort, which was beautifully restored in 2007 with support from the Danish National Museum, has since been left to deteriorate with no regular maintenance.
King Frederick VI, he built it on the plantation. In those days, it was a complete plantation controlled by the Danes. So, cultivated coffee, tobacco, citrus fruits, banana, and all those things. They planted on it. So that was what they were doing before they decided that they would turn it into slavery.
Once surrounded by the River of Hope, now dried up and overgrown, the fort's decline mirrors years of inaction and lost opportunity.
Because the Brekusu people, they had cleared the top, the heavy rain, the debris it brought, filled the river. It filled it. We are now clearing it. You can see the debris that we are now clearing it. If we are able to clear it completely, you see that it will become a clean river as you see it there.
A former tour guide and a resident recounted his experience.
The contribution that I'm doing for this fort is trying to help to build a place, to keep the place going on, like taking care of the place, making sure that the security is tight. It's more than national treasure to me. It's a world treasure. I would say every historic place doesn't belong to one particular country. A couple of people have been coming for about last month. Some people from Denmark came over.
Denmark.
Yeah,
okay.
Came
That's
over
nice.
and they wanted to see. Actually, let me say, when Denmark people come here, I see that they are coming to their ancestral home because Frederick's Cave is from Denmark. You know, so people have been coming, people from America and other school children too has been coming around. I have been doing events here, bringing a whole lot of people here so they can also volunteer and help. I think last year we had a show here. I made a show here, and the reason why I did a show here is to advocate for people to come and know the place and know what we can do.
For some residents, the fort's decay represents more than a physical loss. It's the erosion of local heritage and identity. Clearly, despite its historical significance and panoramic view overlooking Legon Hills, Fredericksburg Fort appears to be slipped from National Spotlight, residents are urging the Ga East Municipal Assembly and the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board to intervene.
This is News 360 live here on TV3. It is now time to bring you sports news.
Of the midfielders to support the back four when there is a cutback, because the defenders, the centre backs definitely will be with the strikers in the box, but these people, they always came from behind to score, so it was not the fault of the goalkeeper, but maybe tactically we were not good in defending
in Morocco. And to look at the talent that we have, I think in Ghana here we can do something, and we have to prove it out to the supporters that we can play at this level. And today the boys did the job and they did it very, very well. I think this week we changed our style of coaching. When we go, we just do the warm-up and they come straight right to finishing. And the goals they score, they've been doing it. The header, all those things, we did it. And it showed up in the game. I wanted to win this game, and then it will be a very good alarm for House of Folk to think about. It's not going to be easy. We are just wounded.
Heading over now to game week 10 of the English Premier League goal machine, Erling Haaland was at it again, this time netting a brace in Manchester City's 3-1 triumph over Bournemouth. Elsewhere at London Stadium, Newcastle suffered a 3-1 defeat at the hands of West Ham United. Let's take a look at the highlights. Up next is international news.
When you are going to buy a paint, don't look left, don't look right.
Thank you for staying with us here on News 360. Let's now take a look at what is happening elsewhere around the world.
Nigeria has said it will welcome U.S. help in fighting Islamist insurgents as long as its territorial integrity is respected. Abuja was responding to threat of military action by President Donald Trump over what he said was the ill treatment of Christians. Trump said on Saturday he had asked the Defense Department to prepare for possible fast military action in Nigeria if Africa's most populous country fails to crack down on the killing of Christians. Daniel Bwala, an advisor to Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, said they welcome U.S. assistance as long as it recognizes their territorial integrity. Bwala sought to play down tensions between the two states despite Trump calling Nigeria a disgraced country. Groups monitoring violence say there is no evidence to suggest that Christians are being killed more than Muslims in Nigeria, which is roughly evenly divided between followers of the two religions. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu has insisted there is religious tolerance in the country and said the security challenges were affecting people across faiths and religions. Pope Leo has appealed for an immediate ceasefire and the opening of humanitarian corridors in Sudan, saying he was following with great sorrow reports of terrible brutality in the city of Al-Fashir in Darfur. He called on the international community to act decisively and generously to support relief efforts. The UN Human Rights Office said on Friday that hundreds of civilians and unarmed fighters may have been killed late last month when the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces captured Al-Fashir, the Sudanese army's last major holdout in Darfur. The city fell a week ago after an 18-month siege, prompting tens of thousands to flee. Pope Leo also addressed the situation in Tanzania on Sunday, saying there had been clashes with numerous casualties after recent national elections. He urged all sides to avoid violence and walk the path of dialogue.
And there's always more news on our website, 3news.com. But thank you so much for spending your hour with us. I am Noble Crosby Annan.
And I am Aisha Yakubu Khalid. Mentor Season 14 starts tonight. So stay tuned and enjoy. Bye.